Hi everyone, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the class. Welcome to the eighth session or eighth lecture of your ESI subject. I hope you all are doing good. I hope you all are good. We'll wait for people to join and then we'll start the session. Okay. So a brief introduction about today's session is that today's session is going to be on poverty, which is your social issue. So we'll take two classes on it. We'll see what all is there in poverty. Uh, what is it related to basically? We'll see what all are the measurements. How do we, calculate if a person is under the, poverty, or what is the current rate, and we'll see all of the steps that have been taken by the government of India to resolve this issue. So these are the issues that will come, of course, in your static as well as your descriptive part. So it is very important, the steps, the indexes that are there, which measures your poverty, that are very important to consider. Okay, let people join and then we'll start the session. Okay, hi Vikas, good afternoon. Let people join and then we'll start the session. Okay, so again, I think Vikas, you just have joined. A brief introduction about the today's lecture is that today we'll talk about poverty. We'll talk about a little theoretical in sense about poverty. We'll see what all is included. So basically we'll take two lectures on it, and that too from your examination perspective only. So yes, let people join and then we'll start the session shortly. Okay. By that time, you can tell me how is your preparation going, how you're taking your other subjects as well, how your ESI preparation is going on, how you are going with the preparation, what all sources you are, including in your preparation. What are you like? Which sources are you looking for, or which sources are you following for current affairs and all? And Vikas, also just tell me how you are finding these classes. Are these, are you finding them easy, or what is the case? Let people join and then we'll start the session shortly, okay? Great, 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 Vikas. सो आई वुड ऑलवेज सजेस्ट यहाँ से तो क्लासेस देखो, बट देन घर जाके स्टैटिक पोर्शन भी रीड करो, रेफर टू सम मटेरियल और मेक नोट बाय योरसेल्फ, एंड देन कंबाइन दैट विद द करंट अफेयर्स. ओके, so as we'll move on, as we'll go on with the topics, of course you'll find many of the topics. For example, poverty, we'll see many of the indexes that are currently news, and you have to of course integrate it with the current news, your static part. From there only a question will be asked. So it is obligation from your end also to integrate it with the static portion. Okay. All right. So let's start the class. I told you that today's topic is going to be on a poverty. So poverty, broadly saying, poverty का meaning क्या है? It is basically गरीबी, है ना? Poverty का meaning क्या है? It is basically गरीबी. Now, coming on the definition, which is of course very important for all of you to know. Definition की अगर मैं बात करूं, you're facing difficulties during PIB news. As in, I take analysis at sharp 7 p.m. जहाँ पे proper news का analysis होता है. What else do you want? You just need to read it by yourself and then you will get analysis of it. Where are you finding problem in PIB news? Okay, so starting with when this word was found out, this word was discovered, poverty. So what does it mean? How was it discovered? What does it refer to? What does poverty mean basically? So it was the term poverty has come from a Latin word which is called pauper. This is paupertas, or you can refer to it as this paupertas, which means as poor, or the person who is lacking in resources. Okay, the person who is lacking in resources. So poverty is basically something for those people. It considers those people who do not who are not able to fulfill their basic necessities. Now if I talk about today's time, the definition of basic necessities is again very different. Today's basic necessities includes your technology as well. But if I talk about this time only, the basic necessities were what? Food, clothing and shelter. These were the three major sources that was important, that were there as an important source for the survival of a human being. So similarly, if I talk about that particular period of time, or even if I talk about poor people today also, what people living in the rural areas need? They only want food, they only want shelter, and what they need is clothes to bear the winters, or I would say to keep themselves in warmth. So this is what comes under poverty. It includes those people who are not even able to fulfill their basic requirements. Okay? People who are not able to get three times meal a day, that is also part of poverty. The people who are not able to live in a pakka house, that also comes under poverty. The people who constantly migrates, as in your people who do not have pakka houses, they continuously migrate according to the seasons and with their animals and whatever, they also are a part of your poverty. And of course there are limits set, there are set limits which defines a poverty, that will cover in the coming slides. But just for understanding the meaning here, the problem was named as poverty. Okay, the problem was named as poverty, the problem of lacking in resources, the problem of lacking in resources as in basic requirements, basic requirements. Okay? Those were the people who were, this is a problem that was known as poverty, and people under it were called what? They were called as poor people. So it was described as a lack of basic needs such as your food, shelter and clothing that prevent a person from leading a dignified life. Now leave the dignified life, even they are not ready, even they are not able to survive in this particular period of time. So people who do not have access to anything, who do not have access to their basic requirements, that those are the people who come under this category, which is poor, and who comes under this particular problem which is known as poverty. This is still very relevant in India. If I talk about Indian people, or if I talk about the entire world, you will, if you see the data, if you see MPI index, we have various indexes that calculates the poverty. We'll see that in the coming lectures. But generally saying, if you see the ratio, if you see the percentage, then it is still very high, because the gap between urban poor, the gap between have and have not is still widening over the period of time. So these are the reasons which give rise to poverty also. Okay, so poverty is basically a state of economic and social deprivation. Now you have to remember that it is a stage of economic issue, and it is a social problem as well. Deprivation wherein individuals lack in access to basic necessities such as food, shelter, clothing, healthcare and education. Okay, so these are the conditions which tells the an individual that that particular individual is living under the poverty. Okay, now we'll see what are the factors, or what are the reasons of increasing poverty. Okay, now a pertinent, or I would say a fixed reason of all economic and social issues is the increasing population. Okay, increasing population. We all know that the population of India and the world is rising, drastically, and we have limited use of resources, we have limited resources. The resources that are available to us are not too much to meet the needs of each and every individual. We all know that we have unwanted wants, but the raw material that is present to us is limited in nature. We all know that, and to meet the requirement of people, it is getting tougher and tougher day by day, that raw material, or I would say the resources that are present to us today, they will not be able to meet the requirements of the people, because the population is just increasing rapidly, and we do not have that much resources through which we can fulfill the needs of each and every individual. So this is the major problem that is giving rise to poverty. And of course, If poverty is there, then it is giving rise to further problems as well. For example, a person, if it is unemployed, then of course it is giving rise to poverty. So things are interlinked with each other. Okay, things are interlinked with each other in economics. If one problem is there, of course that will give rise to another problem, that will give rise to another problem, that will give rise to another problem. So this is just a spillover effect that is there in an economy. Okay, so one is increasing population. Okay, next, what to say? Limited resources, limited resources and unlimited wants, unlimited wants of the population. And studying it, analyzing it is the entire economics. How can we analyze the situation? How can we manage our resources? How can we manage our resources in a manner that coming population also takes benefit of it? That is called sustainable development. Okay, that is called sustainable, or I would say judicious use of resources. So your economics, your economics revolves around this particular issue only, this particular issue only, wherein we talk about that the resources we have is limited in nature, but the population or the needs of the population are increasing drastically, and we do not have that much resources, that much enough resources to meet the requirement of each and every individual. Okay, this is the entire case, or I would say this is the entire problem. Next is increasing the gap, or I would say widening of gap. Gap as in between urban and poor, urban and rural areas, between haves and have nots. Okay. Now, the resources that are available to people who are living in urban areas, the people who are living in urban areas have a lot of connectivity, है ना? They have everything available to their doorsteps only. For example, if you are a person who is living in urban area, of course you have access to Zomato, you have access to Amazon features, you are getting things at your doorstep only. Whereas if you compare that with the people who are living in rural areas, they do not have even connectivity to send their children to schools. Even the bus doesn't come in their area, they have lack of roads, they have poor infrastructure there, which is uh, facing these problems. They are not able to they are not able to fulfill their basic requirements even. So the gap is the difference, or I would say the gap between urban and poor is getting wider day by day. Although government is trying its best to come up with various initiatives which are increasing, or I would say which is decreasing the gap between urban and poor people, but still, if I talk about the ground reality, the things are very different in a manner. Whatever you read or whatever is picturized in the news is not exactly the situation. People who are living in rural areas know exactly what is the situation. So if you still see, then there are many of the villages, there are many of the rural areas who are still not able to connect with the outside world or connect with the urban areas. They are still not able to send their children to school. They are still not able to access healthcare facilities because the hospital that is there is very far from their area. And if in case of an emergency, of course they have to face a lot of critical issues, they have to face a lot of problem because the connectivity is there is a lack of connectivity, they are not able to access anything. Next, the issue or the gap we have is have and have nots. Okay, between the rich and poor, rich and poor. Now what do you think the problem is there? What do you think, why is this problem there? Because the distribution of income, I would say distribution of income is not equal, now this distribution can be, for example, there is a worker, okay, there is a worker who is living in who is inclined, or I would say who is continuously working in an agricultural area, in a primary sector. And again, there is an individual who has learned the skills, and he is an individual who's working in industrial area, and he is earning more. So the distribution of income is unequal. Now you can consider a problem of gender equality here. On a similar ground, on a similar field, two genders are working, one is women, another one is man. Okay, now you will see man is given more money, and if I compare it with the income that is provided to women is of course less. That is also the reason that the distribution of income is not equal in a country, and that is giving rise to rich and poor people, that is giving the rise between the gap between rich and poor people. Okay, is this thing clear? What else do you think can be the reason? What else do you think can be the reason? What else do you think can be the reason? I just told you that if in case there is poverty, okay, if in case there is poverty, why do you think poverty is there? Why do you think people, are poor? Because they do not have money. Why they do not have money? If you take two individuals, one is earning, okay, it means the one is employed. So unemployment gives rise to poverty. Okay, I told you that things are interconnected with each other. If there is one problem in an economy, of course that has taken that is risen, that has been taken that has taken birth just because another problem is there. So if I talk about poverty, if I talk about poverty, this is there because of unemployment in the country. Okay, unemployment in the country. Now there are two cases. One is unemployment, that there is no employment, no jobs at all. Another one is the word which is known as underemployment. Underemployment is a situation in which you will see that vacancies, or I would say unemployed people in that particular area are 10, but the vacancies of job is just 5. Okay, so that is the reason we call it underemployment, that employment is more. Okay, people need more jobs, but the jobs that are there are not able to fill the gap. So for example, there are 10 people in a particular area who are who want job, who are unemployed, but the vacancy of jobs that is there in that particular area is just 5. So again, 5 remain left. 5 people are still unemployed because the vacancy there in that particular area is just 5. So that is the situation of your underemployment. Okay, so underemployment and unemployment is the reason that gives rise to this graving problem, that is your poverty. And of course this gives rise to another problem as well. Poverty means no income. And if a person has no income, then it will lead to no consumption. No consumption means it will give problem to what? It will give rise to problem of no production. How will a producer produce if there is no one to consume? Okay, again, if there is no production, no investment. From where will you get the money when you are not producing anything? No investment, again, no income, no capital. And if there is no capital, low standard of living. And that again gives rise to poverty. So this is a graving situation. This is a graving problem. Okay, everyone understood it? Are you getting clarity of what is poverty basically? This is just an introduction, and this is basically a chart how things are interlinked with each other. Okay, how one problem gives rise to another problem, that is known as spillover effect. Clear? Is only Vikas here? Where are rest of the people? All right, so we have just seen that what are the reasons of increasing poverty. Okay, so these are the reasons of your increasing poverty, and this is a chart that is giving rise to, this is a chart that states or that shows that one problem gives rise to another problem. Okay, in economics, one problem gives rise to another problem. Okay, similarly, now we'll see a concept which says that how do we calculate poverty. ठीक है. On what basis, on what indicators we calculate that okay, this is a set parameter. For say this is a poverty line. Now poverty line is कि this is just a parameter. Okay, if my finger, I would say my hand is above it, I'll say that I am growing. If my hand is below it, I'll say the things are not working in a good way. So we have again set in economics, we have set a parameter, we have set a deadline. Above, people above it are good in earning, or I would say they have a good standard of living. And the people who are down the poverty line are known as BPL people, who are below the poverty line. Their standard of living is not good. They are not even able to fulfill their basic requirements. So these are the poor people. Okay, the people who are below the poverty line are poor people. They are basically below the poverty line, and they are BPL people. Okay, they comes under the category of BPL people. So different schemes, the government comes up with the different schemes for the BPL people. And above, who are above the poverty line, they are known as above the poverty line people. They have good standard of living, they have comparatively good standard of living, and they are earning, they are able to fulfill their basic requirements. So we have set a parameter. Okay, now according to, if I talk about international poverty line, so basically your World Bank says that extreme poverty comes in when a living of a person, that is, if a person is spending even less than $2.15, if a person is spending less than $2.15 per day, purchasing power parity, that person will be considered as a below poverty line. That person will be considered as below poverty line. Now this is international standard. Okay, this is international standard. Of course, if a question related to it comes in your paper, then this is how you have to quote. I'm just telling. This is how you have to quote. The World Bank says that extreme poverty comes in when the standard of living, or the consumption of a particular person is less than $2.15. So this is how you have to quote this particular statement in your paper. That will give more quality to your paper. Now coming on PPP. Okay, coming on PPP, which is known as purchasing power parity. Okay. Now, what is purchasing power parity? This is basically your PPP. Okay, this is basically your PPP. Now, purchasing power parity. Okay, purchasing as in you are buying something. Power means मतलब जो आपका amount है, the amount that you are giving, how much power is there in your amount, and how much the amount of money you have, how much power it has, how much products it can purchase. That is known as purchasing power. Parity as in balance. Okay, so I have just recorded the the three words that are here. Purchasing as in consumption. You are buying something. Okay, buying something. Next word we have is power. Power as in strength of your country's money. ठीक है. Parity as in balance. So now you will get to know कि हम यहाँ पे किसकी बात कर रहे हैं. We are here talking about different countries. Okay, we are now going to compare different countries. So for example, if I take an example of two countries. For example, we will take US and India. Okay, we will take. Wait a minute. Okay, we will take US and India. US and India. Okay. You are traveling in US, okay, and let's say you have $10. You have $10, and you are able to get one burger. If you give $10 to the shopkeeper, okay. Now you have come back to India. Now you are traveling in India. Now similar situation is that you want one burger only. But price will be differ here. Okay, price will be different here. You were paying $10 in US, now you are paying 30, for example 300 rupees, 300 rupees in purchasing one burger only. Okay, now you will see that okay, I have paid $10 in the US, but I am paying 300 rupees in buying burger. Now how will you determine if the situation, or which country has low standard of living, as in which country has low cost of living? कहाँ कहाँ के स्टेट में, फिर किस कंट्री में मेरे को जो बर्गर है वो सस्ता मिलेगा? दिस इज द एंटायर केस. ठीक है, अभी हम यहाँ पे क्या करेंगे, कैलकुलेट करेंगे और विल कंपेयर कि विच कंट्री हैज लो कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग. Even if you have less money, you can survive in a better way in that particular country. Now you have analyzed कि यूएस में कितना मैं पे कर रहा था, I was paying $10 only. अब इंडिया में I am paying $300. Now let's take a hypothetical situation. Okay, now let's take a hypothetical situation. Hypothetical situation that your $1 is equal to 80 rupees. I know better way that it is more than that, it is even above 85, but this is just an hypothetical example that you the dollar or the rupees that you pay in against of $1 is 80 rupees. Okay, now you will see that okay, I had paid kitna, I had paid $10 in buying one burger only. So kitna that if I multiply it with 80, how much will get? I'll get 800. Okay, 800. So 800 will be equivalent to $10. Okay, 800 will be equivalent to $10. So basically, if I am paying $10 for buying one burger, I have to pay $800 in India for buying one burger. ठीक है, this becomes the case if this is the exchange rate. Now you have to pay what? If you have to compare the cost of living. Now the cost of living here is equivalent to each other. ठीक है, similar you are paying here only, because in 800 you are buying one burger only. $10, after paying $10 you are getting one burger only. This is the equivalent status. ठीक है, the cost of living between the two countries is same here in the situation. But what we saw before it, exactly, the burger in India is cheaper. Now analyzing this situation, you will calculate that what should be the exchange rate exactly. So you were paying 300 here, okay, and you had paid $10 here. So dividing it with 10, what you will get, that $1 should be equivalent to rupees 30, then only the situation will be equivalent here. If I compare it according to this situation, you will see that the cost of living in India is cheaper if I compare it with the US. Okay, so if you are earning equivalent money, according to the exchange rate that is there, of course the cost of living in India will be less, and if I compare it with US, the cost of living will be high. Okay, this is the entire case. This is the purchasing power parity. Is the example clear to everyone? Is the example clear to everyone? Is the example clear to everyone? Clear? The meaning of purchasing power parity is clear. So basically, if I talk about purchasing power parity, it shows you the minimum money required to fulfill the basic necessities of life. What does it compare? It compares the cost of living among various countries. All right, all right. Because have you understood it? Not. Matlab, I'm not able to get what you've said. I told you that consumption or the cost of living in India is cheaper. Okay, if I compare it with this exchange rate. Okay, if I compare it with this exchange rate, now this is just hypothetical in nature. Okay, of course it has gone above 85. This is just hypothetical in nature. I've taken 80 so that you can easily calculate the entire calculation here. You can easily get it. Okay, this situation shows the cost of living in India is cheaper if I compare it with US. ठीक है, ठीक है. Everyone got PPP? Got it? And of course, जैसे मैंने आपको decode करके बताया है, you can decode the words here and you will easily get it. ठीक है, you will easily get it. You will understand it in a better way. Of course, you cannot even you cannot always understand, and you have to basically use your mental strength and whatnot. Sometimes you have to रट्टाबाजी भी करनी पड़ती है, रट्टाबाजी भी करनी पड़ती है, we all know. So this is how you can easily get it. You can easily get the point here. Okay. Now, in India, poverty is defined using consumption-based estimates. ठीक है, consumption-based estimates, that is where people below a certain poverty line, that is based on calories intake and expenditure. ठीक है, so if I compare it with India, if I take the situation of India, so basically हम जो है वो poverty line है, फिर I would say what are the parameters that are on the basis of two bases. That is basically one is calories, that basically what is the calorie intake. Next is what level of earnings do you have, what level of consumption do you have on a daily basis. ठीक है, so we'll see the cutoff, we'll see the parameters in the coming slides. यहाँ तक सभी को clear है ना? ठीक है. Next, we have first recognition, that when was poverty, the situation of poverty first recognized. ठीक है, this is just for your general understanding. This will not come anywhere. This is just for your general understanding. So if you want to read, you can read it. This is just content to read only. There is nothing in it to to understand or bring your mental health there. ठीक है, this is just to read, or this is just a fact. Okay, this is just a fact. Now, if I talk about particular poverty, then it was first officially recognized as a distinct economic issue in British time. Okay, that was in late 19th century. That was a time of your industrial, growth, or I would say when there was a time of industrial revolution. So, if I talk about British time, if British India, so when industrialization was going on, there were a lot of problems that India was facing, and at that particular period of time, a difference between, or I would say, when the gap was getting wider and wider, that was the place where poverty, a situation like poverty, a social issue like poverty was determined. Okay. Now you can analyze the situation of famines also. Okay, there were a lot of famines, particularly if I talk about Great Bengal famine. So that was also the reason that contributes to that contributes to the issue of your social food storage issues and your economic distress issue. That is when we recognize a problem of poverty. This is just a fact. Okay, this is just a fact. Now, if I talk about solution, that was first given. Of course, in the coming slides, in tomorrow's lecture, we'll see that what are the steps taken by the government. We'll see indexes, and we'll see what all are the steps taken by the government. But what was the first step that was taken by the government of India at that particular period of time? So it was first proposed, the solution to poverty in India came with the Mahatma Gandhi's concept, that was Gram Swaraj. Gram Swaraj as in village self-sufficiency. If our villages grow, if our villages grow, the poverty will be reduced by itself. So this was what was said by Mahatma Gandhi ji. So it was about the villages self-sufficiency. He argued that poverty can be eradicated by the strengthening of rural economies. They still say that the soul of India's economy still lies in rural areas, है ना? And what we say, what is the major factor that is contributing highly to the rise in the poverty? That is the widening gap between rural and urban areas, है ना? The infrastructure, the inclusive development, the connectivity that is there in urban areas is still not present in rural areas. The people who are in rural areas are still struggling so much. So it was the thought of Mahatma Gandhi as well, कि अगर rural areas को strengthen करोगे, so of course you will get reduction in the poverty. if you incline, or I would say if you bring more infrastructure as in, if you grow the industries, if you grow your assets, if you capitalize those areas more, of course the poverty will be reduced by itself. So this was the first step, or I would say first initiative that was taken, or the problem was recognized first by Mahatma Gandhi ji, who gave a solution that was known as Gram Swaraj, making your villages more self sufficient. Now they had a say on promoting your local industries like your khadi industry and ensuring self reliance. Okay, now we have self help groups. Okay, this is one of the steps that is taken by the government of India, that is making our villages better, that are making rural areas better, that are making better people who are living in rural areas. So post independence, the first major policy that was aimed at reducing poverty was community development program. Community development program that came in 1952. Again, iska bhi aim kya tha? To improve the rural living, to improve the rural conditions, to improve the connectivity, to improve the the mindset of the people. They have the orthodox sense. Still, if you see the rural people, they still have orthodox sense. To remove that, to make the people who are living in rural areas educated, to provide them healthcare facilities, to provide them opportunities, to provide them welfare schemes, so that they can also come out of that problem. They, if they want to live, they can still live in rural areas, but the connectivity should be there. They also have a right to make their child get studied from a better school. They also have a right to get his children enriched with the skills, enriched with the technology, enriched with the he should also meet the growing India. So these are the things that are there. Okay, these are the things that are there. Next, first government who recognized it. So this is also a fact, just a fact. Jawaharlal Nehru, in the time of 1947, 1964, he recognized it. And if you see, we'll cover the 5-year plans. And if you see the first 5-year plan, then again, problems related to rural areas only. If I talk about agriculture, rural development, the problems were discussed at that particular period of time also. Next, Indira Gandhi ki jo government thi, she also recognized it, and she came up with a slogan that was Greeby Hatao. Okay, so this was the major slogan, or I would say stunt of that government at that particular period of time. Now you can think by yourself only, if a political party is using this particular slogan as a stunt to win in a political party, to win as a political party. So you can think what was the case at that particular time, what could be the the situation of the people that were there in 1947. Okay, so to remove the poverty campaign in 1971, her government introduced the targeted poverty alleviation programs like integrated rural development program. Now we'll discuss all of these schemes and programs in tomorrow's lecture. This is just for a general understanding. Okay, this is just for a general understanding. Next is, this is important. Okay, this is important, bodies for your poverty measurement. Bodies for your poverty measurement. Now you will understand that what are the bodies, or basically कौन से ministries हैं which are related to giving you facts or giving you data as related to the poverty. So first, if you see, there was a planning commission right from 1950 to 2014. He used expenditure based estimates. ठीक है, so basically how much amount of expenditure is done by the done by this particular person. So they used to calculate as on a average basis, but per individual. Okay, so that was done at the time of planning commission, right? They started right from 1950 and it went on to 2014, and expenditure basis पे क्या होता था, calculation होती थी. Then came Tendulkar committee that came in 2009. It recommended shifting from calorie based poverty lines to a broader consumption based estimates. ठीक है, so firstly calories के जो basis पे होता है, I think the minimum calorie is 2400 something. So it was calculated at that particular period of time on a calorie basis, but then it was extended, the area was extended, and then a lot of expenditure, rest of the expenditure was also included. That happened at the time of Tendulkar committee. ठीक है, then came Ranga Rajan committee, and then the situation also got changed. It came in 2014 and it suggested a high poverty lines, but not officially adopted. Okay, it was not officially adopted. So in the coming slides we'll see what was the limit, what was the recommendations that were given by Tendulkar committee, and we'll see what were the recommendations that were given by Rangarajan committee as well. Okay, so if I talk about today's scenario, so you know have could have noticed or you could have heard of Niti Aayog, which is a famous body, 2015 से start हुई थी. And if you talk about still or present time, it has replaced your planning commission, and still the poverty related policies or whatever the issues that are there in an economy, Niti Aayog is the one who prepares the indexes, who comes up with the data, who analyzes the situation in an economy. So Niti Aayog जो है वो आज भी क्या करता है, data जो है वो release करता है, that is related to poverty. ठीक है, that is related to poverty. Now we'll see current implementing industries. So जो primary ministry है that implemented poverty alleviation programs, or I would say welfare programs that are related to the poverty reduction. So it was the Ministry of Rural Development. Okay, it is the Ministry of Rural Development, which involves various ministries. So it involves your Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Housing and Urban Affairs किसके related है? Urban issues के related. ठीक है, urban poverty के related. ठीक है. Next, if I talk about social justice and empowerment, so it talks about marginalized groups. Okay, it talks about marginalized groups. ठीक है. Third we have is Ministry of Labor and Employment. ठीक है. Labor and Employment के अंदर क्या आएगा? All the issues that are related to wages, or all the data that are related to wages and labor also. And labor also. So your primary ministry is Ministry of Rural Development. This is the one who releases the data that are related to your poverty alleviation schemes, and under it is further bifurcated into 3 ministries. Okay, that includes Housing and Urban Affairs, which deals with the problems that are related to basically urban poverty. Next, you have Ministry of Social and Empowerment, that specifically looks upon the issue that is related to poverty related to marginalized group. Next, you have Ministry of Labor and Employment, which addresses the wage-related issues, wage-related poverty, basically. Okay. Now, you have various types of poverty. Okay, various types of poverty. So, broadly, if I consider, then you will see you have absolute poverty, okay, situational poverty, generational poverty, and relative poverty. In today's lecture, we'll see these 3. Okay, this is very extended in manner, so we'll cover in tomorrow's lecture. This particular poverty includes many of the things, so we'll see it in tomorrow's lecture. So basically, relative poverty is related to inequality, and there are a lot of concepts that are included in relative, that is included in inequality. So we'll discuss it in tomorrow's lecture. Today we'll discuss about absolute poverty, situational poverty, and your generational poverty. Okay. So among these 3, these 2 are very simple. If I talk about situational poverty, so this is basically when a situation comes. For example, you have one earning person only. Okay, you are either your dad or mom. He is the sole member in your entire family who is earning, and let's not God do, but in case that person die, okay, that person dies. Now is a situation that there is no one in your family who can earn, or who can fulfill your tummies, who can fulfill the basic requirements of the family. So that is situational poverty. A situation has come that has made you come under the poverty. Now is the time that you have become poor. Since the time, or till the time your father or your mother was alive, you were able to fulfill your basic requirements. Now that he or she is no more, you are not able to fulfill your basic requirements even. So that is situational poverty. Next, if I talk about generational poverty, so now if there is a situation that generations have not studied, generations have not evolved, and the people, if your forefathers, or I would say grandfather, was poor, father's generation is also, the generation of father is also poor, and now his children are also facing the similar problem of poverty. So the particular problem of that poverty consecutively goes on generation to generation. Okay, the first generation was also poor, the second generation is also poor, the third generation is also poor. So that is known as generational poverty. Okay, as simple as that. So these 2 are very easy to understand. Now we'll come on to the absolute poverty. Absolute as in completely. Okay, absolute as in complete. Absolute as in completely poor. Completely poor. And who are completely poor? Those people who are not able to fulfill their needs. Now we all know that there is a differentiation between needs and want. Okay, need is you require food 3 times, 3 times food a day to fulfill your tummy. Your want is I want chocolate also. Your want is I want banana shake along with it. That is my desire. That is what my tongue demands. But what your tummy demands is your need. What your tongue demands is your want. Okay, so this is a differentiation. I think for today's generation it is very important to understand the difference between a need and a want, and accordingly you have to spend your money if you want to use your resources in a judicious manner. So this was just a think of gyan. Coming back on the types, you have first absolute poverty, which says that this is a condition where people are not able to meet the basic requirements as in which are necessary for survival. For example, your food, your clothes, your shelter, your health care. Of course, in today's time you cannot you know uh, get a treatment sitting at home only. You cannot tell your father, okay, I am this much dying, if you know what is happening to me, aap mera treatment kar do. You cannot say this thing in this particular period of time. Of course, you need a health care, you need a doctor. So that is the basic requirement that is there for survival. And if you are not able to fulfill your requirements, or I would say if you are not able to fulfill your requirements that are necessary for survival, you are under the absolute poverty, complete poverty. ठीक है, ठीक है. Now this is measured through the concept of poverty line. I told you that we have set a standard. This is a poverty line. Above individuals, above the poverty line, people are rich, or I would say above the poverty line are those people who are able to fulfill their requirements, who are able to fulfill their basic necessities. Below it are the people who are not able to survive, even who do not have resources, that much resources that are required for the survival. So below these, they are the poor people. So how is it calculated? So this is the concept of poverty line that considers the actual number of people below the poverty line. Below the poverty line. Now there are different kinds of standards here. There are different kinds of standards here who estimate the absolute poverty. First, we have poverty line. We told you that the required level of income to fulfill the basic necessities, either per capita calorie or per capita consumption expenditure is considered. So if in case of India, what are the standards? Calorie consumption and the expenditure or I would say consumption. Okay. If I talk about consumption, then according to the Tendulkar committee, Tendulkar committee 2009 said that people living in rural area should make an expenditure of 32 or 33. I think it was 33. It was 32. Should make an expenditure of at least 32, and people who are living in urban areas should make an expenditure of 47. Okay. Now this is should consume. Now then came what? Then came Rangarajan committee. He changed the situation. Okay. This committee said that rural people should spend 33 rupees, and urban people should make an expenditure of 47 per day. Okay. Should consume, or I would say should spend. Okay. Should spend. Now this was the situation. Per day. Okay. This was the situation, or I would say this was a standard that was given by Rangarajan committee. ठीक है? Now I am again wrong here. This is 32. This is 32 and this is 33. Okay, 32 and 33. Got it? Tendulkar committee gave 32 and Rangarajan committee gave 33. Clear? ठीक है. Then came a situation जहां पे अभी हमने क्या पढ़ा कि should consume, ठीक है, इतना जो है वो खर्च करना चाहिए, but exactly कितना consume कर रहे हैं, that was also situation that was given by Rangarajan committee. ठीक है. So basically Rangarajan committee said कि if a person who is living in rural areas is consuming 972 rupees, ठीक है, person who is living in rural areas 972 rupees क्या कर रहा है, spend कर रहा है, and a person who is living in urban areas is spending rupees 1407 per day. Now this is recommendation of Rangarajan committee. ठीक है. Now this is spending. पीछे में हमने क्या पढ़ा था, should spend. पीछे में हमने क्या पढ़ा था, should consume, or I would say should spend. Now the Rangarajan committee says that if a person who is living in rural areas is, doing an expenditure, daily expenditure of above 972, then he will be considered as a person who is above the poverty line. ठीक है. Similarly, if a person is consuming 800, ठीक है, 800 living in rural area, that will be considered under BPL. ठीक है, under BPL. And if similarly you have another person who is consuming more than 972, that will be considered as above the poverty line. So these are the set standards. Okay, these are the set standards. Now where were we? Okay. So we were saying that the bifurcation, or I would say the parameters, are on the basis of two things, that is your calorie consumption and another one is your expenditure that is there. Okay. Next, the concept you have, that is under your this thing only, that is under your absolute poverty. Absolute poverty की एक अंदर एक और concept है, that is known as head count ratio. Now this is inclined in nature. ठीक है, this shows you inclined poverty. Head count ratio क्या count करता है? So basically what is counted, ठीक है, what is counted? If I now tell you are 10, it is a group of 10 people, I tell you that start head counting. So you will start doing 1 2 3 4 5 6. So basically those people who are under this poverty line, head count of those particular of those people is done here. Okay, so basically it counts 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 people are below the poverty line. Okay, so it takes place, or I would say it works in this manner only. So it indicates the proportion of population that is living the below poverty line, Now how it is calculated? Number of people that is below the poverty line and total population. Okay, and total population divided into 100. So basically this is for the calculation as a percentage only. Okay, so above it you keep the poverty line. For example, you have a population of 10, you have a total population of 100. ठीक है, उसके बाद 100 से क्या करना है, so 10%. ठीक है, so this is how you can calculate it. कि number of people below poverty line कितने हैं? You have 10 people who are below the poverty line. Total population is of 100 and you have to make it in a percentage form. So 10% of people are considered as poor, or head count ratio is 10%. Okay, head count ratio is 10%. Now a problem under the head count ratio is that it does not tell you the depth. कि अगर you have 10 people, okay, you have 10 people. Now here we saw that a person who is earning below the 972 is considered as less than poverty line, or I would say below the poverty line. Now this do not consider the fact that what is their basic earning, how below they are. Okay, it considers that okay, they are below, but how below? Even if an individual who is earning 500, okay, now there will be a period there wherein a lot of people, even the one who is not earning anything, even the one who is earning of just 10 rupees, the one who has earning of 500 rupees, they're sitting together. So it does not tell you the in depth of that particular period of time, it does not tell you the inequality, and it is just a static measure, it is just a static measure. Then came a concept that is known as your poverty gap ratio. But before that, we'll understand the situation of HCR of India only. HCR of India only. So according to the Tendulkar committee, that is 2011-12, 21.9% of the India's population was below the poverty line. Okay. Coming on the Rangarajan committee that came in 2014, it suggested a higher poverty estimate of 29.5%. Okay. And according to the World Bank, 2022 की report क्या बोलती है? It estimates that extreme poverty in India fell to 10.2%, 10.2% in 2019, indicating a significant progress. ठीक है, so यहाँ पे कम थे, 21.9% थे. Then again, Rangarajan committee when analyzed the situation, 29.5%. So the situation has more depreciated, I would say, more deprived. The people under it were increased, and if I compare it with 2019, the situation has been better. The situation is on a better pace. It is 10.2% only. Okay, so it will include what? It will include government schemes which will see in tomorrow's lecture. Okay. Now then came a concept of poverty gap ratio. Then came a concept of poverty gap ratio. So poverty gap ratio is basically, it measures the intensity of poverty. It measures the intensity of poverty, that how far the average income of poor people is from the poverty line. It will include all those people. It will include all those people, even a person who is earning 500, or I would say who is spending 500, and it will include the person who is spending only 10 rupees. So it will include the intensity. It will not include the inclination only. It will include the intensity, the in-depth of that poverty. Okay. We all know that there are 10 people who are under the below poverty line. That is called inclination. That okay, towards the below poverty line, 10 people are inclined. Okay, 10 people are into that case. But what is the in-depth, what is the depth of that poverty? What is the depth of that poor people? So this particular index or this particular ratio will show that. Okay, is this thing clear? Is this thing clear to everyone? Then we'll move towards the calculation, how the calculation is done. Is this thing clear? Is this thing clear? Okay. So this basically says that one, you have to include poverty line in monetary terms. Poverty line in monetary terms. Now this analyzes that okay, this much amount you need to spend every day. Now we talked about in Dulkar committee who gave us the data of 33 and 32, right? So this is what this is known as poverty. This is basically known as your poverty line in monetary terms. This much is the amount that you have to spend, Another case, if I talk about average actual monthly consumption expenditure per capita of below poverty line household, so this shows you that actually what they are spending. So this shows you the actual consumption. This is should be. Okay. And if you divide it with poverty line, you will get an answer. Okay. So this shows you in depth of your poverty. Next we have a squared poverty gap index. Now what is done here? More in depthness is here. Okay. More in depthness is there in this particular this particular index. Now it includes both in depth and severity as well. Okay, in depth and severity as well. So for example, your poverty line is 1000. ठीक है, for example your poverty line is 1000. Now you consider two people. There is one who is earning 800, one is earning 200 only. ठीक है, one is earning 200 only. So accordingly the difference between two, the here is 200. The difference here is what? The difference here is 800. So you will get to know that what is the in depth here. ठीक है, what is the in depth here? What is the in depth here? ठीक है, सो अकॉर्डिंगली आफ्टर द मेकिंग अ परसेंटेज हियर, आफ्टर मेकिंग अ परसेंटेज यहाँ पे 20% हो जाएगा, वहां पे 80% हो जाएगा, देन अकॉर्डिंगली यू हैव टू मेक इट स्क्वायर. ठीक है, अकॉर्डिंगली यू हैव टू स्क्वायर इट. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल समझ आ गया ना सभी को कि ये क्या है, मतलब इसका परसेंटेज निकाल लीजिए 20%. ठीक है, अगेन यू हैव दिस 80%, अगेन कैलकुलेटिंग इट 0.2, यू हैव टू स्क्वायर इट, यहाँ पे 0.8, you have to square it. ठीक है, you have to square it, then adding it, whatever you get, adding these both, a plus b upon the poverty line. ठीक है, upon the poverty line, and then you will get an answer. ठीक है, then again you will get an answer. So this tells you the severity as well as what? This gives you the idea also. ठीक है, this gives you the idea also. ठीक है, you have to divide it with 2. Clear? So this is an advanced measure of poverty line which consider two things. How many people are poor? So it includes your head count ratio as well, and it includes how far below your poverty line, depth bhi. ठीक है, so it includes your depth as well as your head count ratio. मतलब inclination plus depth. ठीक है, and no one is going to ask you कि कैसे calculate होता है. No one is going to ask you कि calculate how it is done. You basically have to understand that what is the case here. ठीक है, if you have to quote somewhere that squared poverty gap index is this, then you must know it tells you the inequality among the poor, that is severity of poverty. This is much this is just very enough from your examination perspective. ये तो मैंने just basic understanding के लिए बता दिया कि how it is calculated, but this is not going to be asked in your paper. Okay, this is not going to be there in your paper. This is just for understanding. This is just for basic understanding. ठीक है, is this thing clear? Is this thing clear to everyone? Is this thing clear to everyone here? Vikas, clear? Vikas, is this thing clear? Next, if I talk about the difference among these three, then you can see head count ratio is what? Percentage of people below the poverty line. Okay, it just counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, 10. Only 10 people are below the poverty line. Then next step, what is the depth of poverty? It is told by the poverty gap ratio. In depth, okay, then again severity of poverty is told by squared poverty gap index. Okay, so this is the basic difference between this is the basic difference among these three. ठीक है, now I told you about the situational poverty. Situational poverty क्या है कि if you got a divorce from your partner, from your spouse, and one in your one between the both of you were earning. So if one is out, of course you are in a problematic situation. Similarly, if there is a case of death also, and you have you had one earning person only in your house, then again that is problematic situation. So this is known as situational poverty. This is very easy to understand. Okay, this is very easy to understand. It includes death, unemployment, natural disaster, poverty, etc., which is based on a situational sense. Okay, next you have is general poverty, which say generation poverty basically. So it goes on consecutively from one generation to another generation. Okay, the sequence should be in a proper manner, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It should not be like this, that one generation was in a poverty situation, the other one was very rich, then you have third. It should be consecutive in manner. Okay, that is the reason it is also known as intergenerational poverty. That is the reason it is also known as intergenerational poverty. Okay, that is it for today. From tomorrow we'll see the relative poverty. That includes a lot of indexes, inequality. So we'll see from tomorrow what all are the indexes. Now multidimensional poverty index is very important. We'll see other indexes as well. So this is all that is going to be there in tomorrow's class. Is today's class clear to everyone? Is today's class clear to everyone? Have you understood the concept? Have you understood the concepts? Have you understood the concepts? If anyone has any question, if anyone has any questions. Vikas, do you have any question? I don't know if where are the rest of the students. If you have any question. I'm waiting for you for 1 minute, one more minute. You can ask if there is any doubt. Then we'll end the session and we'll meet in the tomorrow's lecture. Okay. मैम पीआईबी पढ़ने के लिए पीआईबी में बच्चे बेसिकली करना क्या है कि यू हैव टू फर्स्ट एनालाइज द न्यूज दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ईएसआई स्टैटिक जनवरी ना जरूरी है इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट इट इज ऑफ कोर्स इम्पोर्टेंट it is important because it is important. You have to analyze the news that was there in January also, and don't worry about that. Shortly I'll come up with a video on YouTube only, wherein I'll take sessions on complete PIB news that was there in January, so you can refer to that as well. You will get an idea. Acha, start making a habit of reading PIB daily. You just go on a website, go on all releases, and then there is a bifurcation of different ministries, and under it there are a lot of news. So start making a habit of going through PIB daily. That would be very very very, I would say, very effective and helpful for your. Nay, you cannot leave one section and you cannot refer to another one. See, you have two types of papers. One is your static, another one is your another one is your static, and another one is your what? Another one is your that descriptive part. Okay, another one is your descriptive part. Romel, we have not yet analyzed the recommendations and criticism of Tendulkar Commission. Of course, I told you that I'll go with the sequence and I'll make you things to understand. But sabse pehle you have to understand that why Tendulkar Commission was made, who made it. Then of course we'll see the criticisms also. We'll see the Rangarajan criticism also. Why planning commission was there? Why it was replaced by Niti Aayog? We'll discuss all these things. But you have to wait. You have to go with the flow, of course. Okay, we'll discuss it. Of course, I'm going with the flow only. I know what is necessary for now, and then I'll go on the another section also. So firstly, you have to understand these many concepts, and then with the flow, सबसे पहले आप सिर्फ ये अंडरस्टैंड करो कि पॉवर्टी बेसिकली है क्या. सो इन टुडेज लेक्चर वी हैव जस्ट डिस्कस्ड अबाउट पॉवर्टी. धीरे धीरे आई विल टेल यू अबाउट इंडेक्सेस, what came first. That is the reason I gave you facts that what came first. Okay, tomorrow we'll go with the rest of the things. We'll see thoroughly why Tendulkar committee was there, why it was replaced, why Rangarajan committee came. So these are all of the things that are related to it. I know कि ये सारी चीजें जो है वो कवर करनी है. सो कमिंग बैक ऑन द विकास क्वेश्चन, सो बेसिकली यू हैव टू पार्ट्स, स्टैटिक एंड डिस्क्रिप्टिव. फॉर स्टैटिक you are saying that I can leave this static part I can leave, and I'll prepare myself with I'll prepare myself with PIB only. You cannot do that. Descriptive is a bigger part. Okay, descriptive is a bigger part that includes the static and your current affairs also. And if you talk about static, that is little smaller part. So if you prepare yourself for a bigger part, of course you will be able to access, or I would say if you will be able to solve the smaller part very easily. So it is always recommended that prepare yourself watching descriptive syllabus only. Don't prepare separate for static and don't prepare separate for descriptive. Be very conscious, or prepare yourself for descriptive only, and your static portion will always be completed, will itself be completed. Now you are saying some terms are PIB is difficult to understand, so before studying PIB it is compulsory to ESI. Of course, if you are reading PIB on a regular basis, and if you're finding a term that is difficult, either ask me in this lecture only. Come and ask me in this lecture, ma'am, okay, I read PIB section yesterday, this is particular topic which is getting very difficult for me to understand. Of course, at the end of the lecture I'll make it understand to you. Next, whenever you read the topic, just go through each and every word. And if you are getting something, it is very interesting. You are, and you are getting something new, which is not, consumed by rest of the aspirants. So that is a good thing for you. Whenever you go through a new topic, just, Google it, or just, go for a particular book and then analyze it, then read it, and you will integrate your static portion with current affairs at that particular time only. So this is a good thing for you. If you're reading regularly PIB, if you're reading PIB regularly, that is a good thing. You yourself will get to know. And still, if after, Googling it, or after, finding it, you are not able to understand the topic, just come here. This is the reason why you have paid for this class, right? Just come and ask me, ma'am, yesterday I was reading PIB. This is particular thing which I'm not able to understand. Can you please tell me? Of course, I'll let you know. But don't, forgive on PIB. Just read it daily. Just read it daily. Give yourself 1 or 2 months. Of course, you'll get handy with it. You'll get friendly with it. And that is a good thing. That is a good thing. If you are, not understanding something, and if you're Googling it and, compiling it in at that particular period of time, that is a good thing. Yes. Yes, of course. So if any person has any doubt, coming to Romil, we'll discuss these things in tomorrow's lecture. Of course, I've kept it there for tomorrow. Is everyone clear? Is everyone clear with today's lecture? Shall I end it, or do you have something else to ask? Shall I end it, or do you have something else to ask? All right. So again, tomorrow's lecture is again going to be on poverty only. We'll see more things that are related to it, and more things that are relevant from your examination perspective. Okay. So all right, I'm ending my session here. I'll meet you in tomorrow's class. To all those aspirants who are not, have joined me live, who will see the lectures, after they finish their work or after they get free. A request, or I would say, purpose of this class is basically I'm analyzing the things, but obligation of your from your end also is that you yourself analyze, or read the subjects, or I would say read the topics by yourself also, so that you can find more things and you can ask me more. Okay, so all right, I'll meet you in tomorrow's lecture. Till then, keep revising. Thank you.